National Football League. Greeny and Laura is here, and we've got our analysts ready to go from places all over the country. There you see them. Orlovsky and the big Swagoo are ready to analyze all of the big NFL moves that we had yesterday, and most of the information, as always, begins with our man, Adam Schefter. Schefter is ready to go, and let's run the hurry-up, Schefter, through some of the biggest moves in the NFL yesterday. It starts late in the day. Vikings receiver Stefon Diggs will get his new beginning after being traded to the Bills. How did that get done?
Basically, Minnesota really did not want to trade him, but Buffalo stepped up with an offer with so many picks, Greeny, that the Vikings felt like as much as they didn't want to trade Stefon Diggs, they felt the need to do that. And so they did that. They traded him to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills get the wide receiver that they have been in the market for quite some time. And the Minnesota Vikings get a whole bushel of draft picks. And that wasn't the only big wide receiver deal of the day. DeAndre Hopkins sent to the Arizona Cardinals yesterday. David Johnson sent in return back to the Houston Texans. The Texans get back a couple of draft picks. The Cardinals get a wide receiver who's a transcendent talent to match with Kyler Murray to move forward going into the future, and that is a perfect combination, those two guys right now. And then later in the day, the Oakland Raiders nab a quarterback, Marcus Mariota, the former Tennessee Titans quarterback, who now will be looking to do to Derek Carr what Ryan Tannehill did to him in Tennessee. Mariota is looking for a chance as a backup. If he gets the chance, he believes he'll be ready, and we'll see how that works out with Marcus Mariota going to Las Vegas and John Gruden and Mike Mayock to back up Derek Carr. The Miami Dolphins were awfully busy yesterday, Greeny. They signed the Dallas Cowboys cornerback Byron Jones to a massive deal averaging $16.5 million a year. They bring him in to play cornerback, and he wasn't the only addition. They added, of course, Kyle Van Noy, the former Patriots linebacker who's reunited with Brian Flores, his former defensive coordinator in New England. They had Shaq Lawson. They had Eric Flowers. The Dolphins spent a lot of money and added a lot of players yesterday. And the day started, of course, with the Dallas Cowboys putting the exclusive franchise tag, exclusive, on Dak Prescott, which meant that Amari Cooper could go to the market. And Amari Cooper was engaged in conversations with the Washington Redskins throughout the course of the day before finalizing a deal late last night that had him returning to Dallas on a 5-year, $100 million contract, Greeny.
Extraordinary rundown of what was an extraordinary day in the NFL. And if you look at it from a Cowboys perspective, with Dak, because the money is there from the the franchise tag perspective. Whether they work out a long-term deal remains to be seen. But as of this moment, Dak, Zeke, and Amari Cooper have a combined average annual salary of over $66 million. For a team with a history of triplets, it should be no surprise Dallas now has the highest paid trio in the NFL. So Schefter is incredibly busy. He's got the information. Let's get the thoughts from our guys. Swagoo, we'll start with you. As the former Cowboy and you live there in Dallas, what do you make of the Cowboys' moves yesterday, the franchise tag on Dak, and then they get the deal done with Amari Cooper?
Man, good morning, G and Laura. Obviously, we've been talking about this deal for quite some time, and I didn't see. I have to be 100% honest with you guys. I did not see a 5-year, $100 million deal for Amari Cooper. The structure is important, though, and obviously Dallas has talked about committing to getting Dak paid. But with that being said, man, we are back at square one of what we talked about on this show nonstop. Feels like ad nauseum. Everybody else is paid. So now what creeps into the conversation is Dak and his side being difficult? Is it that much of an impasse that it has taken this long to get a contract done? Or is it that Dallas is not willing to commit to the guy that they see as their franchise quarterback? There's only two answers, and I mean two questions, and those are the questions, G. Obviously, they've sent over some deals for Dak. It's come back, and they haven't been able to reach any terms, but to see this happen with Amari Cooper last year, we talked about Zeke Elliott, we talked about DeMarcus Lawrence, and all of these guys that they paid. Dak is still the man sitting on the outside without a long-term commitment with the Dallas Cowboys. It's mind-boggling to me to think that your quarterback, your franchise guy that you've said is your franchise guy, is the last one to get paid on the totem pole.
Yeah, Orlovsky, when we talk about this, so much of it has been that, the Cowboys aren't paying Dak and all of that. But then maybe this is coming more from the Cowboys camp in all reality. What's your reaction to hearing that they might be really close and just cannot get this deal done?
Well, if they're really close, you don't haggle your franchise quarterback over $4 or $5 million a year. We've talked about this on the show that if the difference is $4 or $5 million and it's a 4 or 5 year deal, you're looking at the difference over that time period of $15 or $20 million for your franchise quarterback. So, who is being the more difficult party when it comes to this, the more unrealistic party when it comes to this? When we look at the Amari deal, first of all, they had to get it done. You can see that the Cowboys, because of their mismanagement of the situation, costed themselves some money. That is a massive amount of money. It's really falling in line second, only behind Julio Jones, and their resumes just don't match up between Julio and Amari. It's really what vantage point you want to look at this through. If you want to look at the Amari deal through the vantage point of he's the guy that resurrected Dak Prescott's career, because ever since they brought him over, he's been the best passer in football when it comes to statistics, right? So you could look at it through that vantage point and say, no brainer. You could also look at it through the vantage point of you just gave 5 years and $100 million to the guy that on the most important play of the season last year, 4th and 8 against Philadelphia, was not on the field. And that's the way you've got to look at it, Swag. It was like, which vantage point do you want to look at it through when it comes to this deal in the Cowboys?
I think it's a lot of things revolving around that. Listen, here's where we are. Where we are in Dallas is a new head coach in Mike McCarthy. So obviously there was some conversation going on between him and the front office of how important they thought Amari Cooper was to the success of this offense. Those guys doing their due diligence and trying to figure out what's the best possible situation, not only to have us in a great position where we have a guy on the outside that's a number one, but to possibly put our quarterback in the best situation, even if we're dealing with a contract dispute right now. I remember Mike McCarthy at the Combine talking about we'll get it done. These things take time. He was talking about he was with Aaron Rodgers and how much time it took, even though it wasn't played out in the media. Obviously, it's the Cowboys and we're going to talk about it. And obviously, it's Dak Prescott playing on fourth round numbers in which he got drafted. But with that being said, Dan, when I look back at the Philly spot and I think about that situation, whether it was Amari Cooper or Jason Garrett, a lot of things have changed since we came along from them trying to get into the playoffs. So I'll be interested to see what the talk is out of Dallas, how the response is to this contract that they just signed. But you don't sign no damn body to a 5-year, $100 million deal if it ain't been a lot of good conversations going on around what he's going to do with that franchise and obviously how better he makes Dak when he's on the field.
Guys, if I were to pose it this way, I would just like to get your perspective because I think this is a reasonable way to look at it. If you look at what the Cowboys have done over roughly the last 12 months, they find themselves in a situation where they're about to pay a very good but not great quarterback. They're over a barrel. He will wind up having to be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL or close to it. They have a very good but clearly not number one echelon wide receiver who they put themselves in a trick bag and have now had to pay him the second most of any receiver in the sport. They let the running back, who had absolutely no leverage, hold them over a barrel by going to Cabo. They folded for no reason, paid him all the money in the world, came in and then chose not to feature him this year in the way that we thought. And oh, by the way, all that leaves them in a position where one of their best players on defense signs a huge free agent deal with someone else yesterday. So from the outside looking in, it looks to me like the Cowboys have gotten a lot of this wrong. Where am I missing it?
Gee, I feel so bad that you just went through all of that because I damn near feel the same way, man. But what I will say is this. When you look at what Jerry is doing, when you look at what Steven has been doing, when you think about these players, and look, when they gave the first round draft pick away for Amari Cooper, that was a commitment then. I didn't know it was going to be a 5-year, $100 million commitment, but we all knew it would be a commitment. And then the market dictated. Teams were in conversation with Amari Cooper about signing and getting his services. So there's a lot of things I feel like from the outside, I'm agreeing with you, G, that they got wrong, man.
I think the reality is the Cowboys, you don't want this time period to be known as a wasted opportunity. They've already lost some years with the talent that they had with Tony Romo and Jason Witten and Des Bryant, and they never won their championship. And the Cowboys now feel pressure. They better get their players locked up that they have now and win their championship because they missed their opportunity in the years past.
All right, so that's where we stand as far as the Cowboys, but that is just the tip of the iceberg from a football perspective. As we get going, we'll have a lot more on that coming up today.